Okay? Do you remember did you just get logged in? Well, no. So you can come up to here. So you're not watching. Okay. Hey, can I get everyone to pause really quickly? And I need everyone to do something for me. Move the cursor to the top right-hand part of the screen where you see the little round symbol up there. Okay. First things first. If you do not see that symbol on the calculator, you will not be able to log in. If it looks like a little Wi-Fi symbol, hopefully we don't have that issue right now, but if it does not look like that symbol, you cannot log in. When you are logged in, it should have your name in the top gray ribbon. There should be that little circular symbol. It looks like an arrow. So if you move your cursor to this symbol, it should show your username. Okay? So that's a quick way to tell if you have not logged in. Hold on 1 second. And then do not forget the instructions are up on the chalkboard if you've forgotten. I can reset your password. A simple password that I would probably use if I were you is the password you have for your school stuff, the school email and things. I guess it's not a simple password, but it is a password you should know. And so you prefer to see it, right? What's up? Remember I said just type out the word @ and I'll know to put the @ symbol in there. Okay. What's up? We're going to talk about it. Don't sweat it. Remember, I think it literally says in there, just come up with something that you think that might be right. We're going to discuss what it means to be statistical in a second, okay? Who asked? Don't tell me. Shania. Okay. Or Shannon. Here. Alright, Shania, you should be able to log in now. Whatever you type in will be your password. Jose. Okay, I'm not going to stop the poll question. I'm going to instead start on the looking at the second question. Oops, that's not projecting what I need. Okay. So right now I have 22 of 23 of us as submitted. Now, I know again, I'll point this out. This is the first day, or second day that we've really been doing these bell ringers. So I get it, that's taking us a little bit more time. It's taking us 10 minutes though to answer these 2 quick bell ringers. We got to get quicker about getting into class, getting seated, answering these bell ringer questions, okay? And so, because first off, we just have a lot to learn. We got a lot to do. So please make sure you get that done. In class right now, we have 28 minus 3, so 25 students. We should make sure that we have 25 answers up here. And in fact, right now I have 21 of 25, so make sure you get your answer in there. I told y'all last week about the active collaboration scores. We're going to review those things. Hey guys, focus on what I'm talking about, then we can look at that. I talked about active collaboration scores. If you do not get the bell ringer done in a timely manner, you will lose out on a point on your active collaboration score for that day. Because we got to get seated, we got to get going. Okay. All right. Oh yeah, David, you got moved into this class. I think I put you into group 5. However, yeah, I had you in group 5. However, join group 4 right now because there's only 2 of them. Thank you, sir. All right. Quick notes before we get started on this. I do want you to be aware. I am going to be, at least today, filming this class. One, I'm going to film a class every day. I'll probably change it up. The reason why is because I'm going to actually post these videos and I'll show you where on YouTube so that if you know, hey, I struggled with the concept and I can't make it to tutoring, you can watch those videos on YouTube. I want to provide that extra support to students. It does take me time. Please understand, this is one of those things that I do extra beyond what is the norm in classes because I know some of us need extra support. Take advantage of that resource, okay? So it's not one of those things that you need to stress about what you're doing, just focus on your learning and growth. It's more about the teaching. Now, today, that one thing that's going to be unusual is I might be moving the camera around to listen in on some group conversations. That is because one of my professors at the University of Alabama nominated me for an award, and I have to film for that award. So I just want to be upfront and honest with you. I got to check with Mr. Hinton to see if we have to do release forms. If so, I will give them to you, but no one in the public will ever see it. It's more of an evaluation of my teaching to see if I deserve the award. So don't sweat that. Just be aware that that's there. So I do want to point this out. Hayden looked at me and he said, Mr. Kinney, is this a good statistical question, right? Yeah? Okay, thanks. It's okay. Like, I'm not... So he looked at me, hey, is this a good statistical question? Guys, this is the first time that you've probably heard that idea or that statement of statistical question. I'm just asking you to make a prediction. Just make a guess. Engage in the ideas and let's talk about it afterwards and learn from it. Now, I'm going to give you some key definitions and ideas. I would flip over the lyrics that you have and I would write down some of this terminology that we're about to discuss, okay? So, we need to have our lyrics out. Is anyone missing the lyrics for This Is America? David, yeah, because you weren't here. Don't kill him. We don't need the 1 to 100 task, but thank you, Naish, for getting that out. Alright, so I need to get This Is America. Raise your hands again if we need a copy. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Alright, so a couple of questions that we had coming up here. Hey guys, look. And then first things first, I want to point this out. I know what statistical means, but I don't know the answer. Just make a prediction. I'm not asking you to know exactly what it is. I know that this is day one. Just come up with a prediction of what you think the answer might be. And we'll have that conversation afterwards. Z, can you pass this one back to David behind you? And that's right. Alright, so how does this help with our culture? How many letters are in the word cat? How many lines repeat? How many lines repeat? How many times the song was played? How many words are in the song? Okay? So let's talk about this. I'll go ahead and tell you. I see 3 of these questions right now, so far, that are statistical questions. So we need to learn what we mean by a statistical question, right? Yeah. When you think of statistics, what do you think about? Anything? Huh? Okay, but what is stats? Like, what is a statistic that you may have calculated in previous classes? You probably haven't seen it much since middle school.
Like how much something was used or played?
Kind of. That, I mean, the frequency of something is definitely a statistic. Yeah. Okay. What else? Let me ask it this way. If I were to ask for a typical amount that something was done, any guesses off of that?
Average.
An average, right? When you average things, you're dealing with statistics. And so here's the thing I want to point out here. Statistical questions, and this is probably what I would write on the back of your lyrics because it's important. Statistical questions are questions that will result in variability when samples are collected. I know that's got a lot going on here. So looking at that definition, actually I'll let you write that down first, right? Statistical questions are questions that will result in variability when samples are collected. So what from that do we need to clarify or define?
What the samples are?
Okay, so what samples are, right? Does anyone have a guess which of, and we can actually see a couple of them right here. Anyone have a guess what question might be statistical based on that definition? There's a key word that might give it away. I can turn off the lights as well if that would help us see it. What is the average?
Word count for each line.
Word count for each line, right? So if I look at this, what is the average amount of words per line or average word count for each line, right? If I look at a single line, that's a sample, right? We have a whole lot of lines here. In fact, how many lines are there for this song? So that's how many words there are. I should have clarified that. That's my bad, right? There's 600 and something words, but there's a whole lot of lines, right? So do you want to go look at every single line and find out how many letters there are in every single line and then average them? I have zero desire to do that, right? And so I'm going to collect samples, meaning I might look at 4 or 5 lines to approximate an average number, right? Each line would be a part of the sample. And so we're going to get more into it later, and so I'm not going to define it very heavily right now, but a population is everything that we could look at. A population is everything that we could look at, whereas a sample is just one small piece of data, okay? And so, hey, I want to know the average amount of words per line. Well, then I might just look at a few of the lines to figure out how many words there are in that line. Does that make sense? If I look at different lines, are they all going to have the same number of words?
No.
So each line has some variability. Will some of the lines have the same number of words? Yes. But if I randomly sample, or if I sample those lines, different lines have different numbers of words. That's where the idea of variability comes in. And this is why I love statistics, because variability is what makes the world interesting. If I were to just ask, hey, how many students are at Hillcrest High School, how many answers are there to that statement, or that question? I don't know the answer, please let's clarify, but how many correct answers are there to how many students are at Hillcrest High School?
One.
There's only one, right? There's like 1,300 something, I think. Maybe a little bit more than that. There's only one correct answer. Does it matter which day I go up to Hillcrest High School and ask, hey, how many students are enrolled here? Not really, it's the same answer every day, right? Okay, every now and then, like, students may transfer in and out, but for the most part, it's pretty static. However, do we have the same number of students at the school every day?
No.
So even though there's 1,300 something students at the school in general, I could ask the simple question, well, what is a typical number of students each day at Hillcrest High School? That gets interesting. I go into and this is silly, but let's say I go into a forest and I say, hey, how many trees are there today? Well, I could count them. First off, I have zero desire to ever count the number of trees in a forest. Let's clarify that. But that's not very interesting. What's the average age of trees in this forest? That can tell us a lot about the forest. It can make things more interesting. So when we look at the world around us and we start asking questions about the world around us, we get to see beauty and we get to understand things more. But the fact of the matter is we'll never really want to look at the entire population. We're going to look at small samples because there's a lot of data for the entire population. And so that's actually what we're going to get into today. Any questions before I get to the agenda? And please let me also clarify, you don't have to know all of this yet. I'm just trying to introduce the idea of statistics and questioning and looking at the world around us for that variability. But any questions off of any of these terms so far? Feeling okay about statistical questions and variability and samples? All right. So I'm now going to stop this poll. Has everyone answered the question about their email address? Yes? Okay. Please make sure you do this for me just to make sure I do get this data. Go to the top and move your cursor up to where it says quick poll. Click on where it says quick poll and it'll give you a chance to submit. Even if you got away from the questions, you can go back to it. Did you already do the submit? Yes. Okay, so click on where it says quick poll, make sure you submit it. That just guarantees that I get everyone's information. Yes, ma'am. So remember I said to just type out AT. So I'll know to put in the @ symbol then, just type out the word AT. All right. So I've got 2 more that I'm waiting on. All right, we gotta get going. 1 more. Is it Gmail? If it's at Gmail, I can get the rest of it. You can just go ahead and submit from there. Okay. You submit yet? Okay. So coming back to here. That's for Wednesday, that's today. So here's our agenda. I want to talk about a couple of quick things. So quick reminder about classroom norms. So remember, we developed this as a class. First block, we said we're going to respect others, listen to them when they talk, and value their opinions. That's easy to do in small groups, but remember, during whole class discussion, raise our hands so that we can share ideas and we're not talking over others. Have a good attitude and constantly engage in your learning. If you come in, and by the way, first block, remember, is over here. Well, not remember. First block's on the right over here. If you come in and you have a bad attitude, you're not going to learn as much, right? It's your choice whether you come in happy or not. So work on your attitude about it. So then you need to talk in whole class discussion and small group discussion. I am starting active collaboration course today, so I'm paying attention to whether you're talking during whole class and not. And so I've already made a note of those who have engaged. It's your choice. I'm not going to force it, but active collaboration is a part of your score in my class. And so I'm going to go back over that. Really quickly, growth mindset and I am capable. This is something I started last semester, and I think I will forever carry it on. First off, my commitment is to learn everyone's names by the end of the week, at the bare minimum, hopefully before that, but I do have 84 students. That's a lot. That's part of the reason why I need your name tints out, so I can see your names. I'm starting to get a lot of them already. But one way that I'm going to also do that is when you walk into class, from now until the end of the semester, I'm going to greet you by name. If I forget your name at the very beginning, help me out, and I'm doing my best to learn names. But when I greet you by name, your job is to respond with something so that you can come in with the right attitude. I am capable, right? So when Lily Kate walks into class tomorrow and I go, "Good morning, Lily Kate," how are you going to respond?
I am capable.
There you go, right? Tomorrow when you walk in, Mickey, and I say, "Good morning, Mickey," how are you going to respond?
Good morning, Mr. Ken.
And?
I'm capable.
There you go. Guys, it helps to come in with the right attitude. And this is something that I want you to come in with a good attitude and reminding yourself that you are capable. Now, hear me very clearly on this. I've talked about this before. I'm not saying that everyone's going to make an A. What I am saying is that you are capable of growing and learning. Someone who starts out making A's and ends making A's, yeah, good, like you continue to make A's. But someone who came in making D's and improves to C's or improves to B's, they grew and they learned more. It's not about where you start. It's about where you end. And so come in with the right attitude, the fact that you are capable, because when you are capable, you're going to work hard to make that happen. Hard work pays off, and we want to be aware of that. So tomorrow when I greet you by name, how are you going to respond? I am capable. You are capable. Okay. Really quick, active collaboration score reminder. Then we're going to get into a first lesson about statistical questions. We already defined what statistical questions are, but we probably need a little bit more practice, right? Is that fair to say? Okay, and we're going to get that. And then we're going to get to our textbook. So I hope you brought volume 2 of your textbook, as I told y'all to do last week. How did you, who forgot their book? Phoebe? Desiree? Mickey, do you have yours or not?
Yep.
Okay. What?
But you told me to bring it.
Yeah, you said volume 2.
Always said volume 2. I even went, what volume are you not going to bring? And everyone responded volume 1. We need volume 2 today, okay? So look, hey, if you did not bring, please listen, if you did not bring volume 2, you'll have to write your answers on a notebook sheet of paper. Hold on 1 second. A notebook sheet of paper. Bring volume 2 with you tomorrow, and I'll remind you of that at the end of class. But we're not quite there, so don't stress it yet. By the way, for those of y'all, can I say this really quickly? Job place, right? So, for those of y'all who are carrying around 2 of these, please don't. This is a whole lot of textbook, right? Just bring volume 2 with you to class, okay? Leave volume 1 at home. Hide it somewhere so that parents don't accidentally throw it away. Yes, Phoebe.
I don't even think I got
You were here on Thursday, right? They were under your desk and you were supposed to grab them.
I did. What? I guess I did.
You never grabbed one. You came late. I'll get you a copy of them. All right. So Phoebe, for today, write down on a separate sheet of paper. Look at home. If you don't have it at home, let me know. Okay. All right. So really quickly, active collaboration reminders. Please pay attention to this. We'll get to the statistical stuff and the book stuff later. But remember, active collaboration means that you are working together to help each other grow and learn. What are the things that you have to do during whole class discussion to actively collaborate? So whole class discussion like right now. You have to talk in what way? So if you ask a question, you're automatically on the board for actively collaborating. Continue to ask all the questions. What else can you do? Grace. Take notes, right? That's a very plain thing. It's very simple. When I'm talking through main ideas, even if I'm not writing it on the board, if I'm talking through main ideas, write down some notes. The better notes you have, the easier it is to study. What's the last thing during whole class discussion? Say it, Mickey.
I was about to say share thoughts.
Yes! That's it, right? Don't forget it's on the active collaboration score. You have a bright yellow thing in your book, or in your notebook, hopefully. Yeah, share your thoughts, ask questions, and take notes. That's the things to start helping you be successful in my classroom. If you have questions, you gotta ask them because it's gonna help you learn and grow more. And I'm not just talking about questions because you have confusion. Questions can be, hey, I'm gonna push for a better understanding because I think I see a pattern here and let's continue it. Stuff like that. So ask questions, take notes, and share thoughts. Remember, in order to get to a 4.5 in a whole class discussion, you have to do all 3 of those things. To get to that level 4 engaged, you have to do how many of those 3 things? At least 2. Right? That's it. You have to do at least 2, so you're going to have to talk during whole class discussion at least 1 time, or at least a few times, not just once. So that's a level 4 engaged. During small group time, right? Share your ideas, listen to each other. When someone has a question, help them out. But I do want to point this out and be careful about this. I already saw some people grabbing other people's calculators and putting in usernames and passwords. I'm glad that you're helping, but it's better to teach someone to explain how to do it than to do it for them. If you teach someone, they can do it successfully later. If you do it for them, then they will continue to struggle to do it forever and ever and ever. Teach, okay? So during whole class discussion, listen to and consider others' thoughts and perspectives, share ideas, but actively collaborate and talk about the mathematical ideas. And so do not forget, if you just work, you can get to this level 3, and you do one of the whole class discussion things, but to get to the 3.5 and the 4, you're going to have to actually talk and work with each other. Participate. 1, when you talk with someone, it makes the math more enjoyable because it's not all on you. There's a social element to being a human being. There's a social element to learning. And so I'm trying to help you get to that point. And then to get up to that 5, you do have to be a leader within that learning side of things. All right. Now, I do want to review this because this is something that we're not actually studying right now, and I'll explain it in a minute. But mathematicians, or math, how did we define that last week? It's the study of what? Patterns and relationships. It's still up on the board, right? Math is the study of patterns and relationships. So what do mathematicians do? They do study patterns and relationships, but when they're looking at patterns and relationships, there's something they have to do first. It starts with an N.
Notice.
Okay, it's a good prediction. What?
Notice.
They have to notice. Remember when we did 1 to 100? Y'all had to notice the pattern of starting in the second quadrant and then going clockwise, right? That was a pattern that you noticed. After you notice those patterns and relationships, you what? Starts with a D. You'll have to talk about them, so you had to describe those patterns and relationships. And again, it's okay to mess things up. We want to learn from the things that we mess up, okay? So we notice them, we describe them, and then we generalize. Remember, I'm going to help you develop the mathematical vocabulary to talk generally about these things. But we're actually not looking at math right now. We're looking at statistics. We're going to come back to math after this unit, but we want to first, right now, identify statistical versus non-statistical questions. So, to clarify, what is statistics? First off, it's not a true math. So for those of y'all who are like, have apprehension about mathematics, that's not this class. If you want to ask a question about what apprehension means, please ask, because I thought I heard someone asking that. No? Okay. If you're a little scared of it, right? Statistics is not a true math. It's a mathematical science. What do you do in science classes? You do experiments? Okay, but what do you mean by do science, right? You do experiments, right? Within an experiment, right? You're going to do what first? You might do might read to do the experiments in class, but think about the scientific cycle. In order to have an experiment, doesn't someone need to ask a question? A what? A hypothesis, right? To have an experiment in the first place, you got to ask a question. You got to have a hypothesis about that question. Remember how we were talking about statistical questions earlier? We got to develop questions. Okay, so we're going to develop questions. After we develop questions, what do you do with an experiment? You collect data, right? The doing part of it, right, is collecting the data. The same thing is true with science or with statistics, right? We're going to have a hypothesis. We're going to collect our data, and then we're going to actually analyze that data. Okay, and so we're going to be doing more with statistics than you would in mathematics. And so we're going to represent and analyze the data. What story does that data tell you? And so here's a couple of quick examples from when I taught AP Stats, I guess 3 or 4 years ago at this point. There was a girl, Gracie Vandeford, that claimed she knew, I want to say 90%, it was like 80 or 90% of all the students in the school. And so my AP Stats students, or a group of them, were like, I don't believe it. And so they collected data. They had, and by the way, like again, they didn't look at freshmen because freshmen were not in the yearbook, but there's no way to have Gracie look at every single student in the school and say, dude, what's that person's name? Right? That's impossible. So what they did is they looked at some pictures in the yearbook, right? And so they said, okay, what is this student's name? What is this student's name? And they covered up the names when they asked her. And so when they looked at the senior class, and she was a senior at that point, she knew 85% of the seniors. I think it was 75% was what her claim was. So 3/4 of the school. And so when they got to the juniors, she knew 65% roughly. That's pretty darn close, right? Like 85 and 65, like I'm impressed that she knew that many names of all those students. And then when it got to the sophomores, she got to 35%. So notice there was a student that made a claim, and so these girls had a question about that. And they said, do you actually know this many students? And so when they did a sample, there was variability in that sample, whether that person, she knew that person or not, and things like that. And so they were able to ascertain or make the prediction that she actually knows 75% of the students at Hillcrest High School. I mean, 85% here, 65% here, that'd be 75% just for those two. But if she only knew 35% of sophomores, does she know 75% of the school? No. So they were able to make a prediction off of that. Ainsley Campbell was in that class as well, and she was just curious, why do students not stay for after-school tutoring? She was a member of the National Honor Society, and she was getting frustrated that students weren't coming to tutoring. So she asked that question, why aren't students coming to tutoring? And she looked at the data, collected data and looked at the data about why students weren't coming. This is just another example of a graph, but this is data about ACT scores for Mobile County, right? If we want to make our schools better, we got to figure out which schools are doing well and which ones are struggling. And so we can collect data and figure out, okay, so what are these schools doing better so that we can help these schools improve, right? So what is a typical ACT score in Mobile County might be the question here, okay? And so we want to ask questions about the world around us. There's always a question to be asked. Right now, though, I want us to just think about this, and we can actually talk about this in our groups for a little bit before we answer the question, right? Or to help you start thinking about statistical questions. Which question is not statistical? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send out, let me do this. I'm going to send out a poll question, right? Where you can just quickly answer that. Let me get here. Okay. So you should have a new poll question. I'm going to give you all 90 seconds within your small groups to answer which question is not statistical. 1, 2, or 3. It could be more than one of these, but talk with each other. Figure out which of those 3 questions is not statistical. Oh yeah, I had to do D-Gate 2 because I still have you in second block. You were in second block, right? Yeah, so D-Gate 2, that's my bad.
The first one has to work with average. Second one you could categorize in front of the block.
Yes, you can next one when you're done.
That's a straight answer.
If we were actively quiet, which one do you ask? There you
It's not something else that's really loud.
go. I felt like 8 last night. Well, I stayed until like 7.
So let's talk about it. One student said question 1 was not statistical. 9 students said question 2 was not statistical. The vast majority of us thought question 3 was not statistical. So here's what I will oftentimes do. I will say, okay, tell me why. I'm not going to tell you what the right answer is yet, but y'all should share out your ideas. I want to start hearing from people that I haven't heard from yet, and we can have conversations and build understanding from both correct ideas and incorrect ideas. So don't stress about being right. Just share your ideas so we can talk about it. So can someone tell us, because, okay, so most of us thought that number 1 was statistical. Can someone tell us why?
Yeah.
That word average is in there?
No,
That's-
it's just the way that it's worded.
Okay, what about the way that question is worded?
Yeah,
Hmm?
yeah, that's what you said.
Say again.
That's what you said.
Just what I said?
No, that's what I just said.
Okay. But like, what about the way the question is worded would tell us that's statistical? And I will say this, be careful, that word average may not always show up. We need to go back to the definition. This is one of the struggles I see with students regularly, is that we don't go back to the definition. What has to be there to be a statistical question? The variability in samples, right? Let's say I take 5 students from this class and I find out how many letters are in their last name. Okay? And then I take another 5 students, right? That first 5 students is a sample, and I take another 5 students, that's another sample. Will they have the same average number of letters in their last name? No. See how there's variability there? That's the definition of statistical questions. Go back to the definition. And so, if you were to take multiple samples, would you get the same answer every time? Or would there be variability? That's the question you want to ask. So, which month has the most birthdays from the class? Now, I'll point this out. That's a little bit easier to do with this class. Could I find out just in this class which month has the most birthdays? Yeah, there's not that many of you. But let's say I want to talk about the entire school. Do you want to find out that data from the entire school? Do you want to talk to every single person in the school?
Nope.
No. So let's say I just talked to 10 different people, right? If I talk to 10 different people and then I talk to another 10 people, will I have the same set of answers?
No,
So there's what there?
variability.
Well, there's variability, so it is a statistical question. Okay, so notice I'm using those conversations based on what y'all are saying. I listened to what y'all said on that question 1, and I'm trying to address something important moving forward. Number 3, though, how many periods or blocks have there been before this math class? Can I hear your reasoning? Because most of us said it was non-statistical. Like,
The answer to that will never change. Like, it can't be 2 tomorrow and 1 today.
do y'all agree with that statement that it can never change, that there would never be variability? Or does someone want to push back on that?
What do you mean by that? Like, so the others are like, if you got 2 different groups, it wouldn't be the same month, or like it wouldn't be the same letters. But like, we're in first block, so if you ask this in first block tomorrow, then there's not gonna be like 3 classes before it, because first block is at the same time every day.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So if I talk to 5 students in this class and I ask, how many blocks have there been before this math class? What's the answer? 0. If I talk to another 5 students, what's the answer still going to be? 0. So is there variability? No. Make sense? Alright, let's do this one more time. Alright, I'm going to send out that same exact poll question. But now we are going to do it with these questions. Okay? So 90 seconds, talk about it within your small groups.
What is it? Or rather have a snow day or a it's not going to change. I think average can say plus no.
So on the first one,
Wait.
And number 2 is so it didn't mean
the second one would have to be
What year was
Oh, anybody.
the year of amendment? Can you take it back and bring it up and say?
So that means that
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So don't forget, if you see someone raising your hand, what are you also going to do? Raise your hand and stop. No, I'm not going to tell you to shut up. Just stop talking. Why would I say stop talking instead of shut up? It's about respect, right? I think, what was the first norm that we have up there? Respect others. And we only said listen to them when they talk, right? And value their opinions. But if I'm telling you to shut up, am I valuing you and your opinions? No, right? So don't forget that. The mentality there matters a whole lot. Okay, so now I'm going to stop this poll. Let's look at the answers. All right. Whew. Nobody's thinking question 1. 4 people question 2 is non-statistical, and 22 of us are saying question 3 is non-statistical. So, on average, was the furthest in miles that each student in this class has ever been from home. Why are we all saying non-statistical? Remember, raise your hand if you want to share your ideas. Yes, sir. What was your name again? Ethan. That's right. Yeah.
Everybody's from different places, further and not further.
Okay. So there's what there?
Variability.
Does anyone want to push back on that or ask a question about that? So if I talk to 5 students as a sample, the distance that they've been from home on average would be different than another group of 5 students? Yes. So there is variability. Okay, good. So would the class rather have a snow day or a field trip day? This one actually had some people saying non-statistical. Would someone be willing to share why they thought non-statistical? Yes, ma'am.
Maybe because it's only one or the other.
Maybe because it's only one or the other? Okay. So Shania's thinking because there's only one or the other. Does anyone want to push back on or add on to that statement? Billy Kay?
It's not about there being one or the other, it's about it being different in each group that you ask.
So when you say different, what do you mean?
Like, the answers for one class, if you ask that question, will be different from another class, because not everybody would prefer the same one.
Okay. What do you think about that, Shania?
Like I said, it's one of the other.
It's gotta be one or the other. So but your answer's not changing based on her information?
No.
Okay. Anybody else want to push back on or add on to what Shania said? Okay. Let's do this then, okay? Group 2. Raise your hand if you would prefer to have a snow day over a field trip day. You'd prefer, no, just group 2 for now. You want a snow day over a field trip? So the 3 of you want a field trip day? Okay. Right here, group 1, snow day or field trip day? Snow day if you want to, or raise your hand if you want a snow day. Nobody? You'd rather have a field trip day? Be more fun? Okay. So group 7, raise your hand if you would prefer a snow day. So all of you would prefer a field trip day as well? I'll be honest, I really thought that y'all would say snow day, because like, snow day means I don't have to do anything with school, like, that's what you're saying? Okay, so group 6, snow day or field trip day? Snow day. Okay, so I want to point this out. Hey, listen. I asked 4 different groups, right? Did I get the same answer from all 4 groups?
No.
So what was there? Variability. You've got to go back to that key definition. You're right. It's only one or the other. And if I were to ask this entire class, there would only be one answer. Is that fair? Does that make sense, Shania? But you see how when I do some different samples like that, there's variability in the samples? Okay. That's what we want to pay attention to. So almost everyone said that the year the 13th Amendment was ratified is non-statistical. Why is that? Hold on. I thought we were supposed to raise our hands to respectfully listen to each other's ideas, right? I appreciate y'all getting involved, but Jalen, what you got? There's no variability there, right? There's only one year that the 13th Amendment was ratified. So is there variability? No. What word keeps coming up when it comes to a statistical question? Variability. We got to pay attention to that. All right, one last round of this, and I'm going to have you make your own question.
Okay.
Hold on one second. Let me send out this poll question one more time. All right. 60 seconds this time around.
So it can be one
Phoebe, you bet. Phoebe, I swear.
Consensus on that?
I think
Thank you. Okay, I want to applaud y'all because literally it's day 3 of this class and I see a lot of conversation going on. And I want to point this out. It is more fun when you're able to converse and talk about it. But don't just talk at somebody. That's one word of caution I will give because I've heard that from a couple of students. Don't talk at somebody. Talk with them. Ask questions. Hey, I'm seeing this. What do you think? Right? Putting a question at the end is going to engage people more. Using someone's name is going to engage them more. That's why I have the name cards out. It's not just so that I can learn your names, because I'm definitely still working on learning your names, but it's so that you can learn each other's names as well. It's hard to value somebody. All right, so let's look at this. Last poll question. Question 1 and 2. We had a couple of us that thought questions 1 and 2 were non-statistical. Okay. Question 3 is the vast majority of us. So let's look at it. About how long did it take students in this class to get to school this morning? What word is not there in number 1? Average. But there is a word about. But remember that word average is not what makes it statistical. Most of us thought this was statistical. Why? What is there? There's variability, right? I assume that it did not take all of us the same amount of time to get to Hillcrest High School. No, right? So there's variability in that. Even though there's not the word average, and I will point this out, you'll hear me oftentimes say, what is a typical amount? That's what we mean a lot of times by an average or a median, is a typical amount that something takes. Alright, so which combination does the class prefer? Peanut butter and banana or strawberry and banana? Regardless, is there variability in the responses that we would get? Yes. Each sample, each piece of data could have variability there, and so we'd want to notice that. But the lightest element from the periodic table, first off, does anyone know that answer? Hopefully.
Yeah, I know what it looks like, but I forgot the name.
When you say, what does it look like, what do you mean?
It's like,
This little thing.
It's an H.
it's hydrogen.
Hydrogen!
Oh,
Right? The lightest element on that periodic table is hydrogen. All day, every day. That has never changed. Huh? Say again.
Oh my God.
Oh, okay. Does that make sense now? Yeah? Okay. So let's bring it back, okay? Now, bringing it back, I will point this out. Would all of us have said the correct answer? No, but there is only one correct answer to that. There is no what to this question. Variability. Statistical questions are all about variability. So, I want to give you a chance to create a question. The reason why I'm starting with statistics in Algebra 2 is because this gives us a chance. One, when you create a question, it's going to give me some insight into what you care about, what you think about. And I'm also going to try to use these questions throughout the unit to develop an actual study or two that we look at. So, create a question. And when I say a question, what kind of question do you think I'm looking for? A statistical question. And it could be anything that is relevant to your everyday life. For example, I'm just going to give a couple of examples so that you can start thinking along this path. What is the most common eye color at Hillcrest High School?
Brown.
oh,
Come on.
I would still have to... let me ask this. What are the frequency of eye colors at Hillcrest High School?
Brown.
No. I just said what are the frequencies? So I would have to look at how many people have brown eyes, how many people have blue eyes, how many people have green eyes. So what are the frequencies? I have variability in that, right? What is an average amount of time that people spend on homework at Hillcrest High School? Hold on, guys, hold on. I'm just giving an example of a statistical question. This is something that would be relevant to my life. What is a typical number of anime shows that people at Hillcrest High School have watched? Again, I don't need to know the answer. It's just these are things that are relevant to me and that I would be interested in knowing. Come up with a statistical question that is relevant to you and you are interested in knowing. I'm going to send out one more poll question. So you're going to type it out. Please don't destroy my calculators. And you don't have to rush this. Come up with a question. Hey, this is a solo thing. I want to see your question. Something that pertains to you. Again, guys, I want statistical questions that are relevant to you. Hey, I need you to come up with a statistical question. We're not talking about this together. This is just, I want to see what statistical questions you come up with. Just want to make sure no one falls asleep during this.
How many students?
believe you on this. We're gonna use this to grow and to learn. Okay? I know, we're gonna have to break our mindsets of like, oh, I gotta get it right every time. I'm gonna look over these. Yes, please submit when you are done. Please submit when you are done. Okay. It's looking like quite a few of us are done. Hey, if you're not done, continue to type. I'm going to go over the objectives for the next part of this lesson, and this is going to be where we use the lyrics from This Is America, and we use our textbook. Okay? So submit your answer, but here are our new objectives. Remember, the last objectives were that we need to be able to identify statistical versus non-statistical questions. I'll go ahead and tell you, if there's an objective, more than likely there will be some kind of assessment question associated with it. When you have your first understanding check for me, there will be a question about, is this statistical or is this non-statistical? And you'll have to be able to justify it. You remember how we talked through why it was or was not statistical? You'll have to be able to explain that reasoning. That tells me whether you really understand it or not. Right now, we're going to look at why samples need to be collected with some randomized method and learn how to randomly sample using technology or a random digit table. So please be aware of this, that we're learning about why samples have to be collected randomly. And so we'll see that at the very beginning here. So first things first, this is lesson, I'm going to go ahead and tell you one notation that I regularly use. In our textbook, everything is broken down into modules, and then there are topics within that module, and then there's lessons. And so if I write this, any guesses what that would mean? Phoebe?
Module 5, topic 2, line 1.
Close. Very close.
Lesson 1.
Lesson 1. Okay? That's all that means, okay? That's way shorter than having to write out Module 5, Topic 2, Lesson 1. But what we are looking at is Module 5, Topic 2, Lesson 1. This is on page... I'm pulling it up. So M5-77. Hey, listen to me very clearly on this. Your textbook this volume 2 starts on module 3. So you need to look in the corners because you need M5-77. If you do not have your book with you, look on with somebody who does. Look in the bottom corner. Bottom corners. M5-77. Say again? Yes. Notice, does that match what's up on the board? Alright. I'll go ahead and tell you this. Okay? We're not going to cover every single key term out of this lesson. I'll show you at the end which terms we did cover, because there's only a certain amount of time that we have in class. And so working with other teachers around the county, we've identified certain key ideas. So be aware, we're not going to go through this entire lesson, but we'll go through the majority of it to learn about that idea of randomization. And so if you flip one more page, this is where we're going to start. So one more page, page 78. Okay. This is the getting started activity. Now, I want to point this out. How many of you care about, I believe this has us looking at circles and the diameter and area of circles. How many of you care about that? Nobody? Okay, Jose, I appreciate Jose. Right? No, that's not realistic. Instead, what are we going to study right now? Any guesses? Yes, we're studying statistics, and this is statistics with circles, but what did we vote on last week that I printed out for you that we're going to now study? The song, This Is America, right? So please understand, anywhere that you see circles, we're actually going to change that to, without looking at the words from what? The song, okay? So here where it says circle time, cross that out and put This Is America by Childish If you don't know Childish Gambino, or also known as Donald Glover, you definitely should look him up. He has some phenomenal TV shows, movies, songs, all of the above. He is, I would 100% consider a genius. So we're looking at This Is America by Childish Gambino. And what we're going to look at is actually very similar to what a lot of us came up with, or those of us who came up with statistical questions talked about. If you looked at the statistical questions that were asked in the bell ringer, people said, hey, what is an average number of words per line, right? Yes, Mr. Kinney? Thanks, guys. Instead of looking at the average number of words per line, although I might adjust that in the future, what we're going to look at is the average number of letters per word. Very similar idea, right? What is the average number of letters per word? Now, someone mentioned it, there's 609 words. Do you want to go and identify how many letters are in every single word?
No. I'm good.
Heck to the no. Could you do it? Yes. Would it be miserable? Yes. Okay, so that's why we don't do that kind of stuff in statistics. Instead, we're going to collect, anyone know? Okay, but there's an S word for that.
Samples.
Samples. Remember how I talked about, hey, we have a whole class where we're going to look at just 5 people, right? Or we're going to look at one group. So we're going to look at samples of data. Everything is called the population. We're just going to look at samples. And so we're going to follow these directions here to figure out what is an average number of letters per word. And so without looking at the words, Mauricia decides to use circles. So we're going to say words. And we don't have a 0. I think I start with word 1, right? Yeah. So we're going to do words 1 through 5. And so what we want to do is, first off, find the average number of letters per word. Okay? So we need to find that average number of letters per word, and then we're going to talk about it. Is it likely that the area of average letters are representative of all 100 circles, okay? And so you don't have to know the answer to that yet. Come up with an idea. Talk within your small group to come up with an answer. We're going to have a whole class discussion about it. So what I want you to do within your small group is first do what? Find the... What do you need to find?
The first 5 words.
Okay, well, yeah, find the first 5 words, and then do what with those first 5 words? Find the average number of letters, okay? So work with each other, make sure we all know how to find that average number of letters, and then just make a prediction about what we mean is that average representative of all 100 circles. We'll talk about that, but find that average for sure for number 1. What questions do you have about these directions? All right, let's get this knocked out in a couple of minutes. Yeah, we're just answering number 1. We don't have to do a whole lot.
So the average is just 4.